Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 700 Club. I'm Andrew Knox. For today's top headlines, let's go over to the CBN News Desk.
Thanks, Andrew. In a dramatic legal showdown, a federal judge has temporarily halted the deportation of hundreds of unaccompanied Guatemalan children. Meanwhile, President Trump's threats to deploy the National Guard to Chicago are meeting fierce resistance. Dale Hood has a story.
A federal judge Sunday temporarily blocked the deportation of 600 Guatemalan children by the Trump administration. The order came as some of the children sat on flights waiting to take off for Guatemala. The judge said the government violated their rights to due process and ignored protections for minors who crossed the border alone.
And it defies any reason or logic, the cruelty of the most powerful, the richest country in the world, going after a 7-year-old.
The Trump administration insisted it was acting at Guatemala's request to reunite those minors with their parents. The ruling comes as President Trump is now threatening to deploy the National Guard in Chicago, in part over crime, in part over illegal immigration.
Chicago, everybody knows how bad it is.
Trump on Truth Social said Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker was crazy for saying he doesn't need federal help and warned the Democrat governor to get control of the crime problem in Chicago, writing, "Better straighten it out fast or we're coming." Pritzker accused the White House of secretly planning an invasion.
They ought to let us know when they're coming, where they're coming, if it's ICE or if it's ATF or whoever it is.
Chicago's mayor condemned any plan to surge federal officers into the nation's third-largest city and has barred his police department from helping federal authorities with civil immigration enforcement or any related patrols.
We will not have our police officers, who are working hard every single day to drive down crime, deputized to do traffic stops and checkpoints for the president.
Meanwhile, it's been another bloody weekend of crime in Chicago, with 43 shot and 7 dead. U.S. Attorney for D.C. Jeanine Pirro defended Trump's Guard deployment to fight crime in cities.
What we need is to recognize that the first order of government is the protection of its people. If anyone has a problem with that, then, they're not in compliance with 81% of the American people who think crime is a major problem in large cities.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Thank you, Dale. In Minneapolis, Annunciation Catholic Church held its first service since the deadly shooting last week. The service held in the auditorium since the sanctuary is still closed. 10-year-old Harper Morsky and 8-year-old Fletcher Merkel died in the attack. 18 others were shot, most of them children. Most have been released from the hospital, but some are still recovering. Their schoolmates sending them cards made in class. At the Vatican Sunday, Pope Leo, who is from Chicago, prayed for an end to gun violence in America. With attacks on houses of worship rising, a former U.S. Navy SEAL is joining the fight with a company he started to protect such places using artificial intelligence. CBN's Billy Hollowell reports.
As concern grows over mass shootings, Zero Eyes co-founder Rob Huberty says his company is using artificial intelligence to protect potential targets like schools and houses of worship.
So what we do is we take your existing video cameras, that's what we need to use, and we process every frame by frame, every image, every video feed that you have that are your cameras, we don't install anything. And we use our AI that goes over them, and what it does is it looks for guns that are exposed.
Within seconds, Zero Eyes pinpoints the types of guns being brandished and alerts first responders about the nature of potential threats, as well as the types of weapons assailants might have. Dominic Iacco at Lansing Catholic High School in Michigan says this can offer peace of mind to his school community.
My initial reaction was basically, how can we not do this? When you look at kind of the tragic history of these types of scenarios and you see the advantage of the response time that Zero Eyes gives you, as an administrator of a school, obviously you never want something like this to ever happen, but you also want to know that you've done everything possible to make the school as safe as possible.
Matt Montana, safety director at Valley Baptist Church in Bakersfield, California, agrees.
People want to do us harm, and when I say us, I mean men and women of the Christian faith. Not only the faith-based communities. For whatever reasons, because we live in a broken world, there's a lot of sin out there, and the innocence is preyed upon.
His church is preparing to roll out Zero Eyes, and Montana, who worked for years in law enforcement, says the real-time intelligence can help mitigate threats and save lives.
What we're doing here, that in itself may deter somebody who has thoughts of doing harm to people at Valley Baptist Church.
While Huberty is fully aware of privacy concerns regarding AI, he says his company has intentional safeguards in place.
We view ourselves not as the total solution, but as a layer that makes sense. There's no predictive analytics. We're just looking for an object, which is a gun. We're just trying to be the best in the world at seeing guns and trying to give that information to first responders and those who can do something about it first.
With mass shootings and acts of violence increasingly directed at synagogues, churches, and faith-based schools, Zero Eyes is offering a viable option for leaders looking to increase protections. Billy Hollowell, CBN News.
Turning to Israel, where the build-up to the operation to capture Gaza City continues. Residents of the city are fleeing for safety. Sunday, Israel's cabinet rejected discussions of a partial hostage deal. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed that an Israeli airstrike killed the Houthi prime minister and several high-level leaders.
In a fatal blow, the IDF eliminated most of the Houthi government and other senior military officials. And I also remind you that an entire coalition of world countries acted against them.
Security around the Prime Minister and other Israeli leaders have been increased after Houthi threats of revenge. Labor Day marks the unofficial end of summer. The island of Mallorca, Spain, is an international vacation spot. For 2 weeks this summer, people there felt the love of Jesus through boardwalk prayers, beach services, and ocean baptisms. Wendy Griffith has more.
These young people, mainly from Germany, Switzerland, and Spain, worked with local churches to share the gospel in Mallorca's nightlife zones. Gernot Elsner of Gospel Tribe says the island is one of the most fruitful places for evangelism, despite its reputation.
Well, you got to imagine the party zone, and there's a little boardwalk just in front of the discotheques, and people, they step outside just to take a break from drinking, and partying, and we're there right in the sand with a little stage. And first, when they see us, they're kind of perplexed because it's the last thing they imagine to have somebody talk about Jesus right there. They come back every night. They listen to the messages, to the testimonies. Some give their lives to Jesus, and others are even baptized in the ocean.
Tell us about the party boat and the nightly baptisms that take place.
Usually these boats are used for party tourism. People would get drunk on the boat, they would listen to music and all that. We filled it half with Christians and half with non-Christians. And then the concept was that we wouldn't preach at them, but that we only share a small input about the gospel. And those people on the boat that are Christians, they knew what their job was. Every night when we do the beach services, there are people stepping into the sand, they're coming to the cross, they're sharing their life stories, they're really repenting at the cross, many of them. If we feel that people are ready, and particularly that they haven't drunk alcohol, we offer them to baptize them. And I'm just thinking of one person that we baptized this year. His name is Jose. He's from Switzerland. He lives on the island, and he went through a lot of bad stuff. And he was approaching us because he heard the gospel, at the beach services, and said, I want to be baptized. And from that evening, every night he came back, he brought his friends, he shared with them, you need Jesus too.
I love it. And how would you describe the reception to the gospel?
Well, I think there are always three reactions. There are people who just find it curious what we're doing, and they ask, do you know where you are? Why are you doing this in the party zone? They have nothing against it, but they're just curious. Then there are those who say, hey, please leave me alone. I don't want to hear anything about God. But then There are literally every night, twice, many hundreds of people, and they stand there for an hour, for 2 hours. They listen, they share their most intimate secrets. They come into the sand to the cross to receive Jesus. As I just shared, some of them are being baptized. And we really cannot explain why there is such a grace on this outreach and why there is such a tangible presence of God.
Elstner says often there are prodigals in the crowds who make the decision to return to Christ.
And many times among the party tourists, there are also people who used to be Christians and they know they don't belong there. And, when they're being confronted with the gospel, like they become aware and there are actually people, like turning back to Jesus right there on the spot.
Amen.
I think the one thing that I really want to bring across is if it's possible to reach young people in the party zone where they go for partying, for sex, for alcohol, I really think it's possible anywhere.
Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
What a wonderful ministry.